got some breaking news coming in, and that is we've got a verdict in the trial of the murder of the MP Sir David Amess. Let's go live to our defence and security editor Mark White, who's outside the Old Bailey. Mark, what is the latest?
Dramatic moments from court number 1 here at the Old Bailey now, as the jury has just returned guilty verdicts on Ali Harbi Ali, the man accused of murdering Sir David Amess on the 15th of October last year. It took the jury really no more than about 15 minutes to deliberate and to come back with their verdict. Guilty on 2 counts. Count 1, preparing acts of terrorism, and count 2, that murder charge, that he murdered Sir David Amess during his regular constituency meeting on the 15th of October last year. Now, the defendant had actually admitted killing the MP. He gave evidence last week in which he admitted to stabbing Sir David Amess multiple times, and said that he didn't regret that he'd done that because of the voting record of Sir David Amess when it came to the war in Syria. And he said he was committing this act to try to prevent other Muslims from being killed by decisions made by the likes of Sir David Amess. But that didn't fly with the jury here. He had denied murder, but they have clearly, after a very, very short period of deliberating, decided that he is guilty of not just that murder charge, but also guilty of preparing acts of terrorism, which means that we are looking at a whole life tariff for this man. He will never see the light of day again. I've been looking back at the case, the murder of a much-loved local MP.
Yes, we're TA, we're waiting.
Outside this Baptist church in Leigh-on-Sea, the first police arrived to reports of a horrific stabbing.
They say he's got a knife and he's just stabbed someone.
He's got a knife, but he's allowing you to go in and see the young lady.
Lying critically wounded inside the church, local MP Sir David Amess.
At the same time, we've got a taser unit 1 minute away, so we're going to go in and keep the taser.
Just moments earlier, frantic 999 calls for help.
Please, quick now. The man is wielding a knife and he's threatening me. He's killed David Amess at Belfast Methodist Church.
With the attacker still inside, the unarmed officers decide they have to push forward.
You stand aside. Yeah?
Mate, drop the knife!
Drop the knife now! Get it down! We got him.
Right, search him.
With the attackers subdued, medics were finally able to reach the stricken MP. But Sir David died at the scene, having suffered more than 20 stab injuries. As he was booked into custody, terrorist Ali Harbi Ali openly admitted his motivation.
Domestic or hate-related in any way? Pardon?
Terror.
Earlier, CCTV captured him leaving his London home, heading for Sir David's regular constituency surgery. In his rucksack, the 12-inch-long murder weapon.
When I first came in,
Despite denying murder in court, in police interviews, the 26-year-old was more candid.
Mr. Ali, is this a terrorist attack?
I mean, I guess, yeah, I killed an MP and I've done it. Yeah, okay.
Ali showed the first signs of radicalisation in 2014 and was briefly referred to counter-extremism programmes.
It's a reflection of the challenge we face in counter-terrorism today. So after 16 years as a counter-terrorism detective, the threat has diversified significantly. And if an individual is going to sit at home on their own, conducting research, and not tell anyone else about their case, that's part of the challenge that we face. But we do that with the family of those that have been radicalised, with the public, to take every attempt to disrupt and detect terrorism where we can.
Ali had been planning an attack for at least 5 years before he finally struck, scoping out a number of potential victims, including Cabinet Minister Michael Gove, even writing down possible methods of attack, like targeting him during his morning jog. Fellow Cabinet Minister Dominic Raab and Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer were also in his sights.
Southend should be the city of culture.
In the end, he settled on Sir David Amess, an easy target, always accessible to his constituents.
David was a very special person, and That is why there's been such a deep feeling of tragedy after his murder. This was no ordinary MP, this was someone who was completely dedicated to his job. And to lose someone like that, I think it's affected us all. It's certainly affected me very badly.
That feeling of profound loss was felt most keenly in Sir David's constituency, where locals developed a deep respect for a politician who dedicated much of his time to campaigning for Southend to gain city status. That mission completed posthumously. As he begins life behind bars, Sir David's killer has never shown any remorse for the murder of a much-loved and deeply respected Member of Parliament. Mark White, GB News. Well, I said that as far as Ali Harbi Ali is concerned, not showing any remorse. He doubled down on that, actually, because last week he gave evidence for 80 minutes in the witness box, cross-examined by the prosecution. He said that he did not regret stabbing Sir David Amess to death, that he had done it, he believed, because he wanted, he said anyway to the court, to try to stop other Muslims from being murdered. It was the voting record of Sir David Amess and others who had voted for the bombing of Syria that he blamed specifically Sir David and those other MPs for. And as I say, with regard to those other MPs, he had in his sights for a while the Conservative MP, the Cabinet Minister, Michael Gove. Now, he had even gone as far as actually jotting down on his electronic devices possible ways of attacking Michael Gove, and they included waiting with members of the press outside Michael Gove's home, perhaps creating some kind of a disturbance outside to lure him out, pushing the door in, even trying to bump into him on one of Michael Gove's regular early morning jogs. He decided against that, though, and eventually opted for Sir David Amess, an easy target, a local MP who was always accessible to his constituents and who would have been there and available at that constituency surgery in Leigh-on-Sea on the 15th of October. Ali Harbi Ali had tricked his way into that surgery by calling up Sir David's office to say that he was moving to the area, that he wanted to talk about a number of local issues with his soon-to-be local MP, and it was that trickery that got him into that constituency surgery, armed with that foot-long knife, which he then set about attacking Sir David Amess, stabbing him more than 20 times. He died before the medical services could get him to hospital. But Ali Harbi Ali, just in the last few minutes, found guilty of 2 charges: preparing acts of terrorism and the murder of Sir David Amess MP. He now faces the likelihood of a whole life tariff in prison.
And just finally, Mark, because we're coming up to the top of the hour, I haven't got much time, just briefly if you can, watching your incredible report, a reminder of the bravery of the police who arrived initially on scene, not armed police, merely only with batons.
Well, this is right. Essex, like so many forces around the country, it's not London, where there are armed police often just seconds, minutes at most away from most locations in central London. When you move to places like Essex, it takes them longer to get there. So the first officers on scene often are the unarmed officers, but because they knew a critically ill person was laying injured inside that church hall, they decided to push forward very bravely. But sadly, because of the extent of Sir David's injuries, it was a lost cause. He died before reaching hospital.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. Mark White there, Home Affairs and Security Editor outside the Old Bailey, and we'll get more from the Old Bailey throughout the afternoon here on GB News. That's Ali Harbi Ali being found guilty of the murder of David Amess.